Hi, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Pizza Legends. Today, we are on our way to New York City. Our flight today is from MCO to JFK. This is a really great airport for a lot of reasons. Like, you can get a direct flight to pretty much anywhere in North America, the Caribbean, basically all the capitals of South America, most European capitals. Yeah, great airport for direct flights, and usually pretty cheap flights too, which is why I get to travel as much as I do. On the other hand, since this is a vacation destination, this airport is always full of absolute amateur travelers. So, pre-check is a must. Clear if you can. If you don't, be prepared for long lines for security. Because while an airport like Atlanta might show up at the top of the list of busiest airports, 40 to 50% of that passenger traffic is just people changing planes. So they're not getting dropped off at the airport in Atlanta and then going through TSA screening there. When it comes to people starting and ending their trips, or origin destination trips as they're known in the business, MCO is second only to LAX for O&D traffic. Not that JFK is much easier. We flew to JFK, but we stayed in Jersey City. The sensible thing to do would be to fly to Newark and call it a day, but if you've not been living under a rock for the last 3 months, you know that Newark has been having some problems. So, not wanting to be a part of those problems, we opted for JFK. At that point, the sensible thing to do would be to take the air train to Jamaica, then take any number of Long Island Railroad trains heading to Penn Station, then take the path to Jersey City. But we landed at 4 p.m. in the middle of a heat wave. Speed restrictions on the rails become common, air conditioners tend to stop working, and not wanting to get stuck on a train like these folks, we took the train away from the city out to Rockaway Beach, caught the ferry to Pier 11, and then a different ferry to cross the Hudson to Jersey City. If you're in any kind of hurry, this is the absolute last way you should go. It's funny that LA has this strong connection with being a beach town, but it's something that's so easy to forget about in New York. I'm sure there's a strong beach culture in the Rockaways, but maybe because it's a barrier island, the influence doesn't extend very far over the causeway. For people who grew up near the beach in New Jersey or on Long Island, there's a strong surfing culture with most avid surfers in the water for 9 to 12 months out of the year. But even for people who don't surf, if you're near the beach, it's a 5 to 6 month beach season from May into October. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that you're in the water for all of those months, but that's also the case in LA, where the water can be quite chilly for most of the year. At least for locals, the beaches in New Jersey and Long Island are still a place to hang out and relax, like people in the city might spend the day in Central Park. For most people in the New York metro area, there's a strong local cultural association with the beach as a place you go during summer vacations, or at most from Memorial Day to Labor Day. I was out on the deck for a good part of this boat ride. The beaches were absolutely packed everywhere you looked. And once we got out to around Breezy Point and into open water, the air temperature dropped a good 15 degrees. And then as soon as we rounded Seagate, the temp went right back up. I grew up on the other side of those hills out there, and when you're on the beaches on that side and you look back this way, the most recognizable things on the skyline have always been the Empire State Building and the Verrazano Bridge. But depending on the visibility, you couldn't always see them. Coney Island is a lot closer, so the closest landmark that you would see with regularity across the water is this crazy, defunct ride on the Coney Island boardwalk that was called the Parachute Jump Ride. That structure has been there my entire life, and seeing it was a core part of my childhood. I mean, it outlasted the World Trade Center. But I've never been on it, and I can only really guess that it was one of those rides that hauls you up and then drops you. The Hudson had a heyday for ferry traffic that probably peaked about 120 years ago. Before 1908, a boat was the only practical way to get across the river. All the major railroads had their termini in Jersey City or Hoboken, with grand stations directly on the waterfront with multiple ferry slips. But in 1908, path trains connected these major stations with each other and with Manhattan. Then in 1910, the Pennsylvania Railroad got direct access to the city with the North River tunnels. Ferry ridership then entered a long, slow decline as ridership on path trains boomed to over 100 million per year. But then the Holland Tunnel opened in 1927, and even ridership on the path began to decline immediately. Yeah, car culture did not start in the 1950s. It started in 1908. Highways and expressways were already being built in New York and its suburbs in the 1920s, and it had an immediate impact on transit ridership. The last ferries from Hoboken ran in 1967, so as a kid in the 80s, there was the ferry to the Statue of Liberty and the Staten Island ferry, and that was basically it. But then New York Waterway began ferry service from Weehawken to 39th Street in 1986. Also in 1986, service began from Highlands, New Jersey to Pier 11, which is at the foot of Wall Street, which was followed by the route from Hoboken to Battery Park City in 1989. Pier 11 has since grown into a very busy hub for ferries on the East River, coming from the Hudson, and ferries coming across Raritan Bay. There was a slow expansion of service by both Sea Streak and New York Waterway through the 90s, which then rapidly accelerated after the loss of path service that followed the attack on the World Trade Center in 2001. NYC Ferry was launched in 2017, dramatically expanding access to points along the East River and beyond. Like all transit, ferry ridership in Greater New York declined during the COVID-19 pandemic from a high of around 100,000 passengers per day, with nearly half of that total coming from the Staten Island ferry. Ridership is rebounding slowly, and it's difficult to find data from the same year across all services, but it looks to be back to about 70,000 per weekday across all carriers. The ferry system is fairly well integrated with local landside transit. Most piers are mere steps to maybe a block or two from commuter rail, light rail, subways, or buses. Many of the boats on New York Waterway system have timed bus transfers, although in the absence of dedicated crosstown busways, I'm not sure how much faster that is compared to walking. While the Staten Island Ferry maintains its fortress at Whitehall, the rest of the carriers are fairly well integrated using different berths at the same piers. So you'll find both New York Waterway and Sea Streak ferries at Paulus Hook, Battery Park City, and West 39th Street. Sea Streak and NYC Ferry share the pier at East 34th Street, and all three services meet up at Wall Street's Pier 11. Fares on most NYC ferry routes are a flat $4.50 fare. New York Waterway, which is private, charges anywhere from $8 to $18 depending on distance, but offers discounts for weekly and monthly passes. Sea Streak, which operates exclusively long-distance routes, is much more expensive. A one-way ticket from Highlands, New Jersey to Wall Street is $28, and buying a book of 40 tickets will lower the price to around $18 per trip. Yes, $720 a month is a lot of money, but that's what most people are spending on their car every month anyway. bike share station across from the Grove Street Path Station gets cleared out at night. People are, no doubt, grabbing bikes on their way home and riding them to outlying stations, only to ride them back here in the morning. It's pretty clear from the stacked and chained bikes that they valet this station in the mornings and afternoons. Someone from City Bike posts up here in the morning and grabs bikes after users dock them to keep enough docks free for arriving users. It's also really cool to see Jersey City expand bike facilities, and also that they're not afraid to run with quick builds, see what works, and then harden those good ideas from flex posts to concrete. It's a new day, so we're headed into the city, eventually making our way to Don Antonio for dinner, but not before stumbling on this car-free Home Depot. Sweating it out in the park, meeting up with friends, getting a tour of the New York Appellate Court. And picking up some lunch in K-Town. We are here at 34th Street and 6th Avenue, and we are on our way to Don Antonio to get some pizza. It is really hot out here. I expect that it's going to be even hotter down in the subway. We taken the N or the R, I guess, whichever comes first. Have not been down there today. We were only on the PATH train this morning. Was pretty toasty down there, but not quite as hot as what I'm expecting the subway to be. It is actually wild with congestion pricing that there are as many cars in the city as there are. You would think that it would have made a bigger dent, but it is pretty crazy right now. It is 4:30, so I guess we are getting into rush hour. It's just insane to me how many people drive into the city. Crazy. But all right, let's get to Don Antonio because I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm hot, and I'm just ready to sit down. All right, let's go. Well, it'll take you to 33rd Street. You won't be right at Penn, but you'll be like a block away.
33rd,
33rd, 6th. You gotta walk like a block over.
Okay. So take.
Yeah, Penn is on 33rd, but like on 7th. This will be at 6th and Broadway.
Is there a big
33rd.
difference between 6 and 7?
No, it's like 100 yards.
Okay. So, and that's the next stop, or?
2 more stops.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Pizza Don Antonio hot take. This is ranked Number 7 in the US, number 30 in the world. No, sorry. Frame of reference, I was just at Nardo in LA, and I would say that it's pretty similar to Nardo. Probably, like mid-20s ranking, but number 7, no. I think maybe what the ranking is for the fried pizza, which we did also have. That was pretty good. Really smoky flavor, like really interesting flavors that you wouldn't normally have on a pizza. The fried dough was also crispy without being crackery. I enjoyed that. Didn't like the fried so much. Like, not that it's greasy, it's just like you can feel that it's fried. Wasn't really into it. But I could see, like, flavor was delicious, but the fried part, didn't like it so much. Yeah, the service felt kind of rushed. The tables were tiny, way too small for 2 pizzas, plates, glasses. It was ridiculous. Like, the people next to us were in our laps. We couldn't even hear, like, we couldn't even have a conversation because the people next to us were so close and loud at the same time. So, yeah, I mean, if you're in the neighborhood, great. But you're in New York, there's probably like 50 other pizza places that are better to go to. I would definitely not put this at number 7. Not for Neapolitan anyway. Maybe for the fried pizza, but it's not really like, I don't have a firm reference for that. I can't really compare. So that is Don Antonio. This is just absolute chaos. Like, it's wild that the cops aren't out here. Back in the day, they would have the traffic cops out here. I don't know what happened to them, but they'd just be writing tickets like all afternoon for blocking the box. And apparently no one cares anymore. Totally crazy. Yep. Setting it up again, which means that like traffic's way backed up on 47th Street. It's also crazy that that building on the corner right there is empty. It's like totally vacant, top to bottom. Should not be, yeah, you definitely need a tax on that, on vacant buildings. So my plan was to take the 50 bus down 49th Street to, I think it goes down to like 42nd Street where the line ends. And then it's just a couple of short blocks to get to the ferry slip. I think that's Pier 73. With all that gridlock back there, it wasn't even worth trying or waiting. It's not, maybe it's a half-mile walk. It's not that, it doesn't feel that hot anymore. So I don't want to waste my time. Oh, there's City Bike. Maybe this is my opportunity. All right, looks like we are headed to 41st Street and 11th Avenue, where there are 4 empty spaces, hopefully still there when I get there. So clearly, most of this traffic is headed to the Lincoln Tunnel, and it's gridlock at every intersection. Like, this is just so stupid. Clearly, congestion pricing has not worked, not well enough. There's a whole lot of New Jersey license plates in here, on the road, parked. I see a lot of taxi and limo commission, so these are like Uber and Lyfts and actual taxis. But I'd say at least half of these cars they're not commercial vehicles. They're not taxis, they're not Lyft. You can see trucks, you can see buses, you can see more trucks. Obviously people making deliveries and that stuff has to happen. But just the amount of cars here with one person in them is ridiculous. That is it. And there is the Lincoln Tunnel entrance. It is too hot out here. Like 2 or 3 more blocks to go. Yeah, it's too hot to be able to have fun. We spent a big chunk of the day inside, different shops, different restaurants, whatever, dreadfully walking from place to place. It's a nice little breeze right now. You can kind of see and kind of feel that the weather's about to change, but it can't happen soon enough. Man, it is gross. It's 7 p.m. It is like 95 degrees and it feels like 100. I'm looking forward to tomorrow, where it's supposed to be a high of 78. That I can handle. I mean, this is the temperature pretty much all summer in Orlando. It's a little bit cooler, like it's maybe like 92 instead of 95. I mean, it's not uncommon to have a heat index around 102, 105, but everything around you isn't radiating heat back at you. Like, it just feels so much hotter in the city. Like, you stand next to a building, you feel the heat coming off of it. Like, you stand under the HVAC, the vent shafts, and there's just hot air pouring out of it. There's hot air coming out of the grates in the ground from the subways. Like, the bricks on this building are just radiating heat. And honestly, any heat index under 90, I'm totally cool with. Like, it doesn't even really feel hot to me anymore. Like, back home when it's this hot out, I'm not outside walking around all day. Certainly not doing it downtown. You can see the flags there. Wind is blowing pretty stiff from the north. Waiting for that cool breeze, or like any sign of a cool breeze. Not happening yet. It's also wild to see how much Hudson Yards has filled in over the years. It's pretty cool. It's about time. All right, so we are at Pier 79 Ferry Terminal, 39th Street. Let's see if there's a boat for me to catch. I was running to catch that ferry and they put the chain up just as I walked up. They're like, nope, sorry, you're too late. It was supposed to be a 7:15 departure and it was only 7:12. They didn't look full. I don't know what that was. And there was a woman who was like maybe 15 feet in front of me and they let her go. And then 2 guys ran up behind me and the 3 of us were just standing there like, okay, next boat it is, I guess. But there are 2 boats at 7:30. The first one goes to 14th Street in Hoboken. And then the other 7:30 boat goes to Hoboken Terminal, which is where PATH and Light Rail and all the commuter trains are. But it also goes to Paulus Hook after that. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I don't know. Maybe I'll just get off at Hoboken Terminal and transfer to the Light Rail, because the Light Rail stop is pretty close to our Airbnb. So we'll see. That's in 10 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to enjoy the air conditioning in here. It's not that great, but it's cooler than outside.
The Hudson River Waterfront Walkway is an 18.5-mile path running north to south through Hudson County. Because of the ferries, the path runs between the terminal building and the platforms at Hoboken Terminal. But you're supposed to walk your bikes through the station area. There are so many things to point your camera at in and around New York that I got distracted and wound up on the wrong light rail train, and didn't realize it until we turned north out of the station instead of south, so I had to get off at the next stop and switch to a southbound train. It was crazy how crowded these trains were at 7 p.m. and that they were running one-car consists. It was beyond crush load to the point that I got off a few stops later because it kept getting worse, and because the driver kept saying that there was another train right behind us, but by right behind, he meant 10 minutes behind. But it all brings up an interesting point. We know what the theoretical and actual capacity of every rail line is. We can also predict with good accuracy what the ridership will be like based on the amount of housing and employment within walking distance, and even how busy stations at intersecting rail lines will be. I started working in land use planning in 2001, and then in transportation planning in 2002. I studied planning in the US and Australia. I've worked in 4 states in the US. I have never seen anyone try to marry land use and transportation based on the capacity of the transportation infrastructure, existing or proposed. And whenever I brought it up to the engineers in the room, hey Joe, how is this 4-lane arterial going to do at build-out? Shouldn't we be adding right-of-way for a future transitway? Well, if and when we reach capacity, we'll evaluate options for adding capacity. Okay, hey Bob, how many cars per hour can this arterial handle? Oh, about 1,800 cars per hour per direction. And you guys estimate 1 peak hour trip per household? That's right. Okay, so is this enough capacity for the 6,000 units that are already entitled? No. Hey Joe, looks like we're at capacity. It's true for traffic and it's true for transit. It's important because it's 100% possible to build beyond the limits of transit capacity. And it's not just theoretical, it's observable. We don't want to wind up with systems we can't properly maintain because we're overusing them. Nor do we want to diminish the quality of life of the people who have to use them every day because they're always breaking down, or because you get left behind at the platform because there's no room on the train. I'm Jim. This is Pizza Legends. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.